Good morning. Welcome to the end of our 8th week. We are finishing up our 8 of 9 week radio Zoom schedule. If you're just tuning in, my name is Kobe Flatt. This is our MEL3E, the Grade 11 Math for Everyday Life course. Our WASA classes run on 9 week term schedules. We are in our last term before summer break and finishing off our 8th week, which means after today's class, we have just 4 classes left. I'm trying not to sound so super excited. I know you're all probably more excited. But I love that graduation is around the corner and we finally get to celebrate all of the accomplishments that you've worked so hard for. That those of you who still have your sights set on walking across the stage, we do have time. Do not fret, but get excited. Let it pump you up. Let it motivate you to carry you through the last week of term. Please use tomorrow to finish off lessons and hand in any outstanding assignments. Remember, we do not broadcast on Fridays. Fridays are a chance for you to reach out, connect with your teachers, ask questions, finish assignments, submit work. It's a wonderful catch-up day to get those things done that maybe you've been slacking on, that maybe haven't been done as quickly or conveniently or smoothly as you had hoped. Use tomorrow for that. We will then be broadcasting Monday to Thursday, and that will wrap up our radio Zoom schedule of MEL3E for Term 2B. If you don't have graduation in your sights for this year, that's okay. It's completely understandable. The beautiful thing about adult education is you can work at your own pace. These radio Zoom schedules are to help keep you on track for those who need it. A lot of times we want that accountability. We want that structure so that we can be successful. And if that's you, then you're in the right place. If it's not you, that's okay. You can still be working. We are offering this course over the summer, but it's not going to look the same. It's going to look like it's like when you hear people yawn, you have to yawn. There's laughing happening and it's contagious. So it's a sunny day, it's Thursday. It's a good reason to be smiling. All right. We are talking about, what are we talking about? We're talking about IL summer courses where you can be working over the summer, but it's not going to look the same. It is going to look like you doing your own thing, helping yourself, teaching yourself, working through the IL, which is the Independent Learning Booklet. The beautiful thing about the radio Zoom schedules are that everything's recorded. So even if you're working over the summer and you're working on your own, you can still access these incredible classes. I know that's what you're thinking. Kobe, these are so helpful. I absolutely love the slides you've got going on. It clarifies things so beautifully. Well, thank you. You're welcome. There will be a teacher to mark submitted work, but it won't be me, and it won't be in the same manner that we do during our regular school year. So keep that in mind. You can still be working. You can submit work if you want that feedback, but you can also be working and then taking your time and coming back in the fall when school starts again to pick up where you left off. We recognize that everybody's at a different place, everybody has different motivations, everybody has different goals, and we want to help support you in whichever way works best for you. I do always like to put in a little plug for we work hard throughout the school year. Do please enjoy some of your summer. Mental health is so important, and often we need that reset, that refresh, that time away. So don't feel guilty if that's what you choose to do as well. But then we recognize there are people who really need to get courses on their transcript to get into programming in the fall, which is why we're here for the summer as well. All of that having been said, let's jump into our Lesson 19 material today as we finished Lesson 18 yesterday. Lesson 18 was a 2-class lesson where we talked about traveling distances. We looked at how to estimate distances on paper using paper maps, where you use the provided scale and the given distances to measure length and convert to find how far it will take you to travel from point A to point B. We also looked at technology, how to use apps and online resources such as Google Maps to estimate time as well as distance. We then looked at the traveling time portion and how it's not just how far do we have to go from point A to point B, and not just what does Google Maps say, it's going to take us 5 hours, 17 minutes to get there, but what could affect that time? Why sometimes can we do it in 4 hours, 45 minutes, and other times it takes us 6.5 hours? Well, that is because of the travel times. You have to take into account all the variables, including the time of day, the time of year, is it rush hour, is it a holiday, and the weather. Weather plays a huge one, and we looked at all of the wonderful graphics and visual aids that helped us to understand the importance of driving safely according to road conditions. All of that was Lesson 18. Today we are going to jump into Lesson 19, which talks about modes of transportation. We're going to explore the different modes of transportation in today's lesson, gaining an understanding of the pros and cons of personal vehicle use versus public transportation. Now, some of today's lesson is going to build a foundation and set up that suspense for Monday morning's class. We're going to be looking at, touching on, alluding to, and then on Monday we will bring it all together with our very last lesson of Unit 20. So heads up, we've got some teasers in today's class, but we're going to get through our Lesson 19 material. Our learning goals for today are that we will be able to create a budget for using public transportation. We'll be able to compare costs between owning a vehicle and using public transportation to determine which is the most cost effective. We will also understand the costs of renting a vehicle from various companies. We'll know we have met these learning goals because we'll be able to say that I can calculate the monthly and yearly costs of using public transportation, as well as be able to explain which is the best option when comparing car rentals. If you look in your IL booklet at page 28 of Unit 4, you will see that we are looking at a car versus public transportation. Now, this car is your personal vehicle. So it's not necessarily a small compact vehicle. It just means your personal vehicle, whether it's your truck, your van, your motorcycle, whatever you have, that we want to know the differences between why some people have a personal vehicle, why they prefer a personal vehicle, while others travel by public transportation. And we wanted to note, because we've been talking a lot about having personal vehicles, whether you're buying new, buying used, or leasing, that there are other means of transportation out there. A lot of times it depends on your geography, where you are, your community, your city, your hometown, as to what's available to you. So sometimes, some communities, there is no other mode of transportation other than your own vehicle. But if you are living in a city, there are often multiple options available to you. If you live in a city, you've got that urban lifestyle, there is often a possibility of public transportation. Here in Sioux Lookout, we have the option of public transportation. With each one, much like we looked at when we were buying a new vehicle, there are pros and cons. Buying a used vehicle, there are pros and cons. Leasing a vehicle, there are pros and cons. Same with traveling on public transportation. Some of the pros that we'll talk about for traveling using public transportation include it's often a lower cost. You're not paying for maintenance and gas. In a sense, you are. Your ticket price is helping to contribute towards that, but you're splitting that cost amongst all of the other riders on the bus. So it does lower your cost. When you're taking public transportation, you don't need to worry about how do I get there. You don't have to learn how to use Google Maps to plot your best route. It's done for you. The driver takes care of that. So you have that relaxation of not needing to worry. Same with parking, especially in a city. If you've traveled to Winnipeg and you've tried to get downtown, it's hard battling the traffic to begin with, and then you've got to find a parking spot at the end of it once you get there. And there's nothing more stressful than finding where to park in the city. You don't need to worry about that if you're taking public transportation. It is stress-free. Now, with every good, there's often some bad. Some people might find the cons, the downsides of public transportation, are that you are at the mercy of the transport schedule. That you might need to get somewhere for 10 o'clock and it takes 10 minutes to get there, but the bus only goes at 9:15. So you're going to hop on a 9:15 bus to take 10 minutes getting you there at 9:25 and needing to kill half an hour because you don't actually have to be there until 10, but it's the only time that you could get there without being late because the next bus goes at 10:15. So you either go at 9:15 and you're half an hour early, or you go at 10:15 and you're 15 minutes late. Other times the bus is behind schedule. You might need to get somewhere at a specific time. You plan it all out to a T. It's going to just work. You'll get there with 2 minutes to spare, but the bus is 5 minutes late. One of the cons is you have to adapt your planning because you are at the mercy of the transportation schedule. Another con for some people can be that public transportation is daunting. You often need to really be good at logistics to figure out all the connections and schedules, and then you finally make it and you get to the station and there's so much signage and you're trying to figure out which is your platform that you have to get to. And then once you've figured out all of that part, now you are met with the crowds. You're often in a busy station, on a busy platform. You get on the bus or the train, whatever it might be, and it's crowded and you might have to stand because there's no available seat. Some of these factors can be considered cons or downsides to traveling on public transportation. If you make it past that, there are other things that you do need to consider when you're looking at public transportation. The first is the cost of the fare. You're going to want to figure out how do you pay to ride either the train or the bus or the streetcar, whatever it might be. Sometimes you can pay cash. Other times it requires a ticket or a token, and you need to figure out how do you get that ticket or token. Does it have to be in advance online? Does it have to come from the ticket booth at the station? Is it an electronic self-serve help yourself? Sometimes there are digital cards that you carry and then you swipe. How do you get that card? It's not just how much am I going to have to pay, but what form of payment do I use? So the cost of the fare is how to pay, how much to pay, and then the cost can often depend on the age of the traveler. There are usually discounts for students and seniors. So you have to figure out which category do I fall into, and that will affect the price of your fare. The other thing to consider when traveling public transportation are the types of transportation. Depending on whether you're taking the streetcar, the subway, the train, the ferry, the bus, what do the stops look like and how do you find them? I've read the map. I know I need to be at this intersection, but what am I looking for? Am I looking for what kind of signage? Once I'm at the intersection, do I go below ground? Is it a subway? Or do I stay on the street? Do I have to be on what side? Because depending on the side, it will determine the direction that you're going. Then you want to think about, well, how do you get on and how do you get off? Is it something that needs to be pulled or pushed to get the bus to stop, for instance? Or will the bus automatically stop at every single station stop? Often they don't. If there's no cord pulled or button pushed, it's not going to stop. It's just going to keep going, and then you've missed your exit. Other times, when I lived in Calgary, their buses, their public transportation, you needed to push the stop button so the driver knew somebody wanted to get off there. And then they never opened the doors for you. They had this new technology where you put your hands on the doors, and there was a sweet spot. And they had painted handprints on the doors. You were supposed to put your hands there to give a very gentle yet firm push to get the doors to open. And for the life of me, I could not get those bus doors to open. Bus doors hated me. I had pushed the stop button. I wanted to get off at my stop. I have my hands on the handprints, and I'm trying to find the sweet spot of how hard to push and how nice to be gentle with it, and it just wouldn't work, and the driver thought I was crazy and gave up on me and just went to the next stop. And I missed my stop, that I would have to wait for somebody else to get off who could open the door for me so that I could just sneak out behind them and then run all the way back to where I actually needed to be. It's tricky, it's overwhelming, it's daunting, it can be embarrassing, it can be frustrating. Trying to read the names and numbers of routes and stops can be incredibly overwhelming, depending on the mode of transportation you use. Let me show you what some of that looks like. As an example, I have up on the board here in front of me the public transportation, the bus transit for the city of Thunder Bay. When I click on my link, it brings me to the City of Thunder Bay's website. Now, if you want to find this yourself, you can go to your search engine and you can type in City of Thunder Bay Public Transportation, and it will bring you to Transit with the City of Thunder Bay. So you can see we're on the same one. It is very comprehensive in how much information there is. City services, it will tell you all the city services, but we're looking specifically at this transit. So here we are at transit. There's a lift pass, there are fares, there's the specialized transit, the transit app that you can download, Next Lift that you can download, jobs that are available. They have on the right hand side accessible transit. They have the fares and passes. They have the schedules and maps. You'll want to look at the fares. Remember, we want to look at that cost first. And it has multiple options. So this is where you need to figure out which one is best for you. Will you be paying cash? Will you be riding the bus multiple times? If you're going to be riding multiple times, it's actually more beneficial to buy a pass because you can save some money as opposed to just a one-time use. The other thing you might want to consider is, do I just need to go one place and then I'm done? Or is it one day? I don't have my personal vehicle or I'm in the city for a day. You might want to look at the single rider day pass, which gives you unlimited rides for the day. Not great if you're just going to one place, it's more expensive, but if you're going to go multiple places, it's perfect. You'll end up saving. There's an adult monthly pass, there's a discount monthly pass, a senior monthly pass, the youth monthly pass, the senior annual pass. You want to figure out which one you fall into, and you can do that by looking up what each one is. So it will tell you children age 12 and under are free. However, they require a lift pass. So there you go, you need to get that lift pass. Then you can look up monthly passes, single rider passes, who qualifies for a discount pass, who qualifies as a senior. And once you find out which one you are, then you can start to calculate the cost of your fare. Now, the other thing I wanted to show are those schedules and maps. This is where it can get incredibly overwhelming if you're not used to it. If you're not used to it and you've never done it before, it can be very confusing. But they do have wonderful apps and services that you can use to help plan your trip. And it says so right here, right at the beginning, that if you've got the app, you can see in real time when your bus will arrive, and you can plan your trip by using Google Maps. Super helpful. So we're building on what we talked about in lesson 18, and this is actually going to even bridge into lesson 20. So the schedules and maps is going to be more in lesson 20, which will be Monday. So we're going to move on from there and focus in on that on Monday. I did want to show the Winnipeg in case you're going to Winnipeg. Again, you can Google Winnipeg Transit. They are very similar in finding your fares. They have their own built-in app, Navigo, that helps you to plan the trip as opposed to connecting with Google Maps. You can find your own schedules and stops. You can explore different routes. You can find your fares based on the menu option. You can click on and go to fares, full fare, reduced fare, senior fare, post-secondary fare. Again, that's that student discount. If it's full fare, then again you want to be able to find, are you paying cash? Are you doing a 24-hour pass? Are you doing a 5-day pass, a 7-day pass, a monthly pass? It will all affect how much you pay. We're going to move on because, again, this part of Winnipeg Transit System Map, much like the Thunder Bay System Map, is going to be covered more in Lesson 20. What we're looking at today is budgeting. So we want to pay attention to the fares and how much they are for today's class. The last thing that I wanted to show you, and it's just as a teaser for Monday's class, are the multiple options available to you in Toronto. Toronto has TTC, which if we can find, so here we have fares and passes, which is what we're going to look at today, and I've actually taken a snippet of this so that you can find the fares. It's wonderfully comprehensive again in the sense that it tells you how to buy fares and passes, what kind of fares and passes they offer. Again, they've got the monthly fares and depending on your age. They, at the beginning and the very top of their webpage, give you information about their different modes of transportation. For instance, today has an alert that there will be no subway service between Finch and Eglinton stations starting at 11 p.m. until tonight due to planned track work, but the shuttle buses will operate. So if we go over to routes and schedules, you will see that they have subway lines, that they have different maps depending on if you're on the streetcar or the subway or the bus, if you take the GO, if you take the express. They all have different maps and routes and schedules. We're going to save the reading of the schedules and charts for Monday's class. The last one is the Go Train. The Go Train is another service that you can help plan by looking at. Google Maps can help you with it, and their website can help you with it. Depending on where you need to go, you might need to take the subway, the train, the streetcar, or the bus. To reiterate, now that we have a better picture of what the websites look like and how to plan, you can see that some of those cons are a little bit more visual in the sense that some of the systems are incredibly overwhelming. Some of them have really long wait times and are unreliable. Some have accessibility issues. Most people find public transportation has a higher chance of illness because of the amount of people squished into one place. And often, if you're standing, you're holding this pole, this railing that everybody's hands have been touching. And so you're holding that for safety, and then you get off and you wipe your face. That's how germs can spread. A con to public transportation is it's not suitable for remote areas. Not everywhere has the option of a streetcar, a subway, a train, a ferry, a bus. Other people find a con of public transportation is that they don't feel very safe. They feel like there are too many people. When you're all pressed up against each other, somebody could easily pickpocket you. Somebody can follow you, find out your routines, and it just makes them feel more exposed and unsafe, even not just riding on, but getting to and from. As we looked at some of the schedules, it can be confusing, it can be daunting, it can be overwhelming, and it can be very busy in the amount of connections that you need to make. More on this on Monday, so stay tuned. But there are wonderful things to public transportation. Some of the pros include it's efficient. You don't need to pay for parking. Some people, depending on their rental or where they live, they have to pay for parking at their own place of residence. Not having a vehicle means you don't have to worry about where to store your vehicle, switching it from one side of the road to the other in winter during street sweeping and cleaning. A lot of people see public transportation as being better for the environment. There's less of an environmental impact. It can help you save on money. You're not needing to pay for insurance or car maintenance, or if anything goes wrong, if you get in an accident, if somebody dings your vehicle with a shopping cart in the parking lot. Public transportation is cheaper and there's no maintenance. A lot of people love public transportation because you can multitask. There are a lot of business people who have vehicles but prefer to take the GO train because they can be working on their laptop while they're driving. They can be finishing their breakfast, they can be having their coffee, they can be holding little mini meetings. They don't need to be worrying about traffic and paying attention to road signs, directions, and other vehicles. They can be working while they are commuting. Some people see it as not feeling safe and a higher chance of illness, but other people love having the crowds as an opportunity to meet new people. Public transportation can be wonderful. There are some that have accessibility issues. If you don't know how to read the mode of transportation, their maps and routes, once you figure it out, there are many opportunities for accessibility for older and younger populations, as well as if you're older and you don't have a license anymore, it's great that you can still get around. If you're too young and you don't have your license yet, it's wonderful for you to have a little bit of freedom to come and go as you please and farther distances rather than just hopping on your bike. A huge pro to public transportation is that front door service. You don't have to worry about finding parking, parking around the block, parking in an underground parking lot, and then taking the stairs or an elevator up to the main street. It brings you right to where you want to be. Those bus stops are placed in convenient locations for a lot of those big event centers and attractions. Sometimes, if you have somewhere specific that you need to go that's kind of off the beaten path, you're right, it's not completely at the front door, but it can be easier in a city that's crowded, that has very little parking, for you to access that front door service. We want to get into the meat and potatoes of today's lesson, which is learning how to budget for public transportation. The example that I have on the board says Rosa lives in Toronto and uses the TTC to get to and from work 5 days a week, 48 weeks a year. We want to calculate her annual cost. So if we go to TTC and we find we want to look for that monthly pass. Here we have the monthly pass. A 12-month pass is $143 for an adult. So we're going to look at a 12-month pass. That's for the year. If she does month by month, it is $156. So let's practice how to budget. Because it specifically asks her annual cost, we would want to look at using the 12-month pass, which gives her that year. A 12-month pass is, as we saw, $143. Now, if Rosa is only needing it for 5 days a week, 48 weeks out of the year, that's not the full year. We know that there are 52 weeks in a year, so she's got 4 weeks off. So maybe she's not wanting a 12-month, maybe she only wants the 11-month pass, so to speak. A monthly pass is, as we saw on the website, a monthly pass is $156. So we can see right there that even though Rosa is not going to be traveling for 4 weeks, that's approximately 1 month, it's actually cheaper for her to get that 12-month pass as opposed to buying a monthly pass all the time. Now, if we wanted to go back and look at the cash fare, so if we just went to the single fare, that's $3.35 a trip, we could calculate that as well. A cash fare, how much she's paying in cash, is $3.35 per trip. Now, Rosa would be needing to get to work and from work. So every day she would be making 2 trips a day. So for her week, if she's doing 2 trips a day, that's 10 times for 10 trips at 5 days a week. So she's going 10 times. So we could either do 5 times 2 gives us our 10. She needs to get from work 5 days a week. So she's going 10 times. We'll just say 5 days a week because we've already done the 5 times 2. So her week is 5 trips, is 5 days, and she's making 10 trips a day. So we would want to find out how it is each day. Each day, first, she's making $3.35 per trip times the 10 trips for her week. That gives us, we can move our decimal place. Remember, there's just 1, so we can do $33.50 if she's doing $335 per trip, 2 trips a day, 10 times a week. Then we get $33.50. If she was doing that annually, we could then multiply by, we could multiply by her 40 weeks, 48, because that's how much she's actually working. So then if we did 48 weeks times the $33.50 for the week, we would want to multiply 48 times $33.50 to give us $1,608. So it's way better for Rosa to be looking at the 12-month pass. If your brain wants to do it, $3.35 per trip times 2 trips per day. So that's $3.35 times 2. Be paying $6.70 per day times 5 days a week. Times 5 days a week, we get $33.50. So whatever way you want to work it out, make sure that you write it out the way that your brain is processing it. The second part of the question says, what should Rosa budget monthly to cover it? If Rosa is doing the 48 weeks, we have the 48 weeks times the $33.50. We already calculated the annual at $1,608. To find per month, we would take $1,608 and divide it by 12. $1,608 divided by 12. Nope, that's divided by 2. Divided by 12. There we go. Is $134 per month. So, depending on how long Rosa will be at the job for, is it just for 1 year, is it for multiple years? Depending on how much money Rosa has budgeted up front, if she's willing to pay the lump sum of the cash fare for 48 weeks at $1,608 for the year, she'll need to roughly save about $134 per month. Otherwise, Rosa might want to look at that 12-month pass, which is actually a little bit more costly if you're doing it year by year for the 12-month pass, because then it is $143. So depending on Rosa's big picture, she'll either want between $134 to $143 per month. If you want to practice, you can try your hand at support question number 1 in lesson 19. The second part of lesson 19, which we are running out of time for, so I'll go through it quickly, are car reservations. When you're renting a vehicle, you'll need to reserve a car, which is a lot like booking a hotel room. It can be low risk, there are often prepaid rates, or you can pay later, and more often than not, there's no cancellation penalty. The rates will depend on a few variables, and the first and probably biggest is your age. Rates are higher for young drivers that are under 25 years of age because of the whole insurance thought process of not having a lot of experience. They see you as a higher risk. Often daily fees can exceed the cost of the rental. You want to pay attention to what those are, work out whether or not it is worth it. Now, if you want to rent a vehicle, there are some criteria that most major car rental companies will abide by. They need a driver's license, they often need a credit card to hold it, and there is always insurance attached. Now, you can overpay for rental insurance. They do it to cover themselves, also to cover you. Depending on if you already own a vehicle and you have car insurance, you might be covered. You'll want to look into whether or not you are paying extra for doubling insurance. Large portion of the car rental contract concerns who is responsible for damages if the vehicle is in an accident. You want to pay attention to this in the small, fine print to know if you are covered or not. When you get your car rental, so often you'll book online or you can call, they'll need a credit card to reserve. When you are showing up to get your rental car, make sure you bring your ID with you, your driver's license, your credit card, your confirmation number. It is very important to ensure that you have that so that there's no discrepancies when you get there. When you go to pick up your car, you expect it to be ready for you, and in order for that to have happened, the previous renter needs to have brought it back at their assigned time so they have time to gas it up, fill it for you, clean it out, and have it ready for you. Because you want it ready for you, make sure you are being respectful and doing the same for the next driver who's got it after you, which means you want to respect those pickup and drop off times so that you are getting it back in time for the next person to rent it so that it's filled and cleaned for them. Also, pick up times can be, if you say you're going to pick it up at 4 o'clock but you don't show up till 6, you might have missed the window. They might be closed and gone. You want to pay attention to their hours of operation. When you rent a vehicle, be sure to inspect it. Before you get in, inspect the interior and exterior for damages. This is often done with an employee of the company. If not, you are maybe returning it after hours and you put the key in a drop box. Make sure to take pictures of any damage so that it's recorded, so that you don't get charged for something that was there from the last renter. Be sure to take photos of scratches and damage. Be sure it's recorded with the company prior to driving away, prior to leaving. Often they'll ask if you want extras. This could include a car seat, which you might need, so maybe don't reject that one, but sometimes it can include GPS. It can include having them fill it for you so you don't have to worry about it. All of these things will cost you extra, so you want to be mindful of that. When you return your rental car, you're going to want to fill up the gas because you will most likely get it for a better price in the company. Often you're rushed, you're just focusing on traffic, and you don't have time to stop, or you couldn't get over to a gas station. So then they'll fill it up, but they're going to charge you more than the price at the pumps. Be sure when you return your rental that you're returning it according to company directions. If you're returning it during operating hours or outside of operating hours, that would determine where it needs to go and what you need to do for it. Again, be sure to record for any damage. Check for your belongings. Always go through the vehicle, do one last check to make sure that nothing rolled under a seat or got left in the trunk, because it's most likely going to another renter and you want to have your stuff with you. Always good practice is to get a receipt. This records the return date, the time, the odometer reading, fuel level. These are important for costs, that you are not being overcharged. You want to make sure that you have a record that you did things correctly. There are lots of rental options available. We will get into this on Monday's class. We are out of time for today, but if you want, you can go ahead and go through the IL booklet examples. You can try your hand at the support question, and when we come back on Monday, we'll do questions together for how to find the best rental option, calculating much like we calculated with the modes of public transportation, how to incorporate all the costs associated into the final amount. Have a great weekend. See you back on Monday.